Hi there, this is Jen, and thanks so much for joining me today. Today I have a mixed media card using some visible image products, and I'm going to start out using the Totally Toadstools, which is a stamp set that came out towards the fall, and I've never used it, so I thought I'd go ahead and grab that. Originally I was just going to use the big toadstool, but I did end up using a few of the smaller things from the stamp set. I'm also going to use the stamp set called Grunge Tones, and then I am going to use the Ink Splats stamp set, and I have cut a piece of Bristol smooth cardstock to 4 1/4 by 6 1/2, and this will end up being matted on a larger size, but I'm going to go ahead and start out with that. And I'm going to create the background first. So I've grabbed that Ink Splats stamp set, and I'm using some Versafine Black Ink to stamp a few of the images from that stamp set first. And a lot of times when I'm doing mixed media cards or projects, I like to follow that rule of 3. And so I inked that different stamps up, and I did 3 different stamps on the background. And then I'm going to move on to the Grunge Tone stamp set, and I'm using both of the circles, and I again did 3 3 of each in 3 different places on the panel. And then I'm going to use the Totally Toadstools. There's some grasses in that stamp set, and I took some Versafine Clair, and I don't recall the color, it's one of the purples, and stamped that up inside of that original ink splat. And then stamped a few other little elements from Totally Toadstools. And then here are the inks that I'm using. I am using the Saltwater Taffy, Seedless Preserves, and the Kitschy, I believe that's how you say it, Kitschy Pink. And these are all distress inks. So I started out using my blending brush. The ink was really wet, that Versafine Black, and it did smear a little bit. I don't know if you can tell in the video, but it smeared a little bit, and so I tried moving and doing a little bit of blending with the dauber. And so I tried that with the Seedless Preserves, which, by the way, is one of my favorite colors. I absolutely love Dusty Concord and Seedless Preserves in the distress inks. And so I'm just going to add a little bit of color there. And then I decided to grab my distress sprays to try and kind of mask the areas that I thought didn't look good. And I only have the Kitschy Pink and the Seedless Preserves in the sprays, and so those are the 2 that I use. So I'm just going to spritz it, and I spritzed it pretty far away from the, or not pretty far, but further away than what I would normally, just so I can get a better splatter. And so I'm going to go ahead and splatter both of those colors, or actually spray both of those colors onto the panel. And then I'm going to take my heat tool and dry that up. And then I'll go ahead and take my spray bottle and spritz a little bit inside of that big ink splat, and then pick that up and move that water around a little bit so it makes a little bit of a faint pattern with the water as it dries. And I will take my heat tool again and dry that up. And then I'm going to take those 2 colors and spray them a little bit more, just to give a little bit more color to the background. And then I'm going to take some more water, and I'm just concentrating on several little areas to kind of bring that ink out a little bit with the water. And so I'm going to spritz those, and then I do dry it again, and then take the paper towel and blot up a few more spots. And then I'll set that aside to let that dry completely. I'm going to start coloring the toadstool. This is, again, stamped on Bristol Smooth Cardstock with Versafine Black Ink. And I'm using my Tombows in 817, 177, and 679. I didn't want it to have too much of a contrast against the background, so I'm using some purples and greens. And to color the image, I'm just taking a few of the colors. I'm mainly mixing the purple and the pink, and so I'll color a little bit on the mushroom where I want the darkest area to be, and then I will take my water brush and dip that in water, and then just tap it lightly on a paper towel so that there's not too much water, and then try and go against just the edge of that marker color on the paper and bring that color out, or usually I do towards the center. And so over the top of the toadstool, I'm basically doing the same thing. I've already put the darker a purple color and the pink, and I'm just bringing that out towards the middle. And then for the little spots on the toadstool, I'm going to go ahead and use that green color. So I'll add a little bit of green and then bring that out as well. And then once I'm done coloring, I take the heat tool to it to make sure it's completely dry. And then I'll go ahead and fussy cut the image. I didn't want any white border around the edge, so I'm trying to cut as close to the line as possible so that you just see the image and no extra paper around the edges. And then I'm going to take my white Posca pen and add a few highlights. And then I decided to go ahead and color up a few more of the image from the Toadstools. I thought the mushroom looked pretty lonely on the background, and so I did give him some company with a few of those other little mushroom pieces. And for the grass piece, this was a solid stamp in the stamp set. I cut them apart just so it could fit my design how I wanted it to. I did add a little bit of foam to the back of the big toadstool, and then for the small little toadstools, I went ahead and glued those to attach that to the big toadstool, and then I added that to the panel. And I wanted the sentiment to kind of ground the set, and so I added thin strips of foam strip to the bottom portion of the sentiment and then glue to the top. Where the glue is, that is going to hit the raised element of that toadstool and secure that. And then for that other little mushroom piece, I am just going to add a little bit of liquid adhesive and tuck that right beside the main toadstool. And then I watered down a little bit of white ink and splattered that, of course, over my card. I did also add some glossy accents to the little kind of buttons on the main toadstool, as well as took my glitter pen to add a little bit of shine. And that's going to finish off my card. I'm actually really happy with the way this turned out. I wasn't sure how I was going to use this mushroom set, but I really love kind of the earthy tones to it. So I hope you like it. If you did like this video or find it informative, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. As always, I thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend with me, and I hope to see you next time.